All right, y'all. So, yeah, here we go. That was, y'all know what it was. It was an incredibly tough loss, and just Raleigh, Raleigh being Raleigh there. So, um, I'm gonna struggle with this one because that was really tough. So I don't normally pour a glass of liquor for a disappointing instant reaction, but did do one tonight because it's tough, man. That's a game that you should have won, and we can sit here and talk about who needs to take blame for that. And certainly, there's a lot of people, and conversation will start with your head coach, not so much on the final play of the game, but the method of operating that we went into in the second half there is hard for me to explain. It felt like you were trying to think that you were going to pick up a couple first downs in the third quarter and somehow or be able to melt the clock or something. Bizarre. I don't know why Florida State kept running the ball against some of the looks that they saw. Um, Also, players were very poor. I just was writing down throughout the course of the evening. 80. I don't remember the exact situation of Ontario Wilson's law drop, but that was the first one that I wrote down. I can't remember if that was a third or fourth down. Johnny Wilson drops a slant on a fourth down that's pretty catchable. I know you got somebody climbing over your back, but I need you to catch that ball. Malik drops a touchdown on third down, which is killer, and I desperately need you to make that catch. Johnny Wilson circles back with another really, really frustrating drop on 3rd and 7. And then you have Mark Easton Douglas, which I realized the 32 made a nice play on that, but that's another either 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 10 that you failed to retain possession. So in those 5 plays, again, I don't remember the Ontario Wilson one, and it's about 12:30 on a Saturday night, y'all. I don't have a chance to go back and look through this, but that's 3 possessions and a touchdown that you lost, or that you weren't able to have because of a rather simplistic ask as far as thinking that a touchdowns or thinking that a player on scholarship is going to catch that. So Florida State travels to Raleigh, loses 19-17 in a very frustrating manner, and something that, just as I sit here, felt very reminiscent of 10 years ago, as far as Florida State kind of inexplicably took its foot off the gas in the second half and let an NC State team and the officials come back and ultimately win the game. Now, do I think Florida State, the officials are actively out there trying to get Florida State or something like that? Not necessarily. I do think that there's a lot of people with mental impressions of a Florida State program from 20 or 30 years ago, and maybe subconsciously you choose to, swallow a whistle or swallow a flag that you would otherwise throw. But yeah, I had to go back. I don't want to go too deep into officiating right now. I do find it strange that if you're going to let NC State hold Jared Verse on every play, that, you're not then going to call them for holding. And it seemed like on one possession, they were going to call NC State for holding as frequently as possible. And then the flags never came out again. I do want to give credit to the defense, man. The offense, particularly in the second half, kept doing everything in the world, I thought, to just have your defense quit, more or less. I mean, you kept giving them short fields. You kept asking a lot of them, and I realized that NC State's offense is nothing special, and we talked about that in the preview, but defense went to the well for you every time, and the defense gave you a chance to play that game. And I know that here 12:35 that we don't want to sit here and talk about the future, but I'm really excited as to what 56 and 44 are starting to turn into. Those are nice players. Those are nice pieces that you can build around moving forward. Uh, Very frustrating performance from Jordan Travis. Made at least one very poor decision. Look, everybody's going to go back and microanalyze the final play of the game. You scored a touchdown on it earlier in the night. I get it. I get like, hey, why don't you throw Johnny Wilson in that situation? Um, but like, it's too easy to sit here and hyper-analyze, one, particular play, and particularly a final play of the game. But, the interception, either the possession prior or maybe 2 possessions prior, was as bad of a decision as I've seen Jordan make this year, and, yeah, he's got to, a lot of people gotta look themselves in the mirror. Again, starts with your head coach, uh, goes to your quarterback, and um, damn, y'all, that's a toughie. I mean, you should be 5-1 right now. You should be looking at a season where 9 wins is exceptionally attainable at this point, and you're not, because you didn't go up and get a win that you should have. So, big thanks to our sponsors: Louisiana Hot Sauce, Tarpon Cellars, Congruity, Charlie Park, and the legendary team of Chad and Shannon with Legendary Home Loans. Want to remind you guys that they are donating $250 to each closed loan to Rising Sphere, and I saw where they are 2 loans into that through the first week of that program. So, uh, big credit to Chad, putting his, not just putting his money where his mouth is, but time and energy, and making the effort to get involved with NIL. So that's awesome to see those guys do it. Great to see Fitzpatrick with the field goal at the end of the half there. That's great. Again, I don't understand the method, or the idea as to what Florida State was going to do coming out of halftime there, and what they were going to do in the second half. And it was, familiar to me from 10 years ago, where a head coach got way too conservative in Raleigh and ended up losing to a team that he never should lose to. And, I'd like pieces of NC State's team. Damn, 32 could play football for me any day at linebacker. I realize 11 is a kid that looks like an NFL player, but um, 32 is a hell of a linebacker there. And that's not great content for me to just sit here and constantly say, "Hey, that's a tough loss. That's a tough loss," but that's a heartbreaker, man, and it rips it out of your soul. The way it played out, the fact that at the very least you thought you were going to be able to, at the very least, you thought you were going to be able to have a relatively manageable field goal to kick, and obviously nobody knows that. Nobody expects that to be a guaranteed thing, but damn, man. And then the punt. I mean, I guess we can talk about that. I just, that's a heat of the moment thing. But damn, I love what Florida State did at the end of the half with Pokey and Micah, and creating a diversion that ultimately ended up flipping the field for you and giving you a chance to score at the end of the half. But for a program that spends so much time on special teams, and I realize what I'm being critical of is more or less impossible to replicate in practice, where a kid just kind of freestyles and starts to run, and then pulls up and kicks, is probably something that's going to be hard to practice a whole lot. But for as much time and energy as this program spends on special teams, some crazy detrimental stuff comes out of special teams. Although I did think that again, I want to give credit on the punt return that Papuchis drew up there, because that was cool, and what gave you, I don't know, 48 yards or whatever it was. So, let me just look at my notes. I touched on the drops earlier. That was massive. You did have a little bit of success running the ball in the first half, more than I thought, based off your pure. I thought most of the success, if you did have success running the ball, would be running counters to the left side of your offensive line. And you had a little bit of success with counter, but really it was more just running behind Scott and Givens. And obviously Givens has to play the personal foul there on 3rd and 2 that turns into 3rd and 17 that we're going to remember, and that's a toughie. But it is interesting to see how much better just Robert Scott that's playing at 75% or 65% or whatever he is than what we've run out there the last 2 weeks. So not trying to play armchair doctor, but to me that looked like potentially a broken collarbone for Trayshawn Ward. So we'll just add that to the list of injuries. Um, I don't know that you're going to see Robert Cooper anytime soon, based off how that played out and the report that you got from him from the locker room. So damn y'all. I mean, this team is hurting, and yeah, you're probably going to start 4-0 and find yourself at 4-3. I talked about that last week. It's not so much that you're there; it's that you're there after going to Raleigh and really should have won the game. And you go up there and win this weekend. Next weekend kind of feels like it's just gravy, and you're still not going to expect to win next week. And it's not going to be like oh my God, the sky's falling if you're 4-3, but you missed a hell of an opportunity tonight. And head coach has got to look at himself in the mirror at that. Quarterback does as well. And deal with it and get over it. And Mike's got to work on some in-game stuff. Great builder of a program. Great guy as far as putting together a plan and getting kids to buy in for the most part. But there are some in-game decision making and situational. I don't want to say situational awareness, but making the most of in-game coaching decision that he's still got some work to do. Yeah, I mean, I realize NC State had a backup quarterback that didn't complete a pass. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's that's all the more why it's painful to lose that game. I mean, you just credit to the kicker. I talked about him in the game preview, and that dude is a really good player and was instrumental in them winning that game. So I don't know, y'all. I don't know that there's great content to produce after a loss like this. I don't think I'm doing it right now. It just sucks. It just fucking sucks that Florida State didn't win that game. So if y'all have some specific questions, do my best to answer them. I talked about the drops. I'll go through it again real quickly, but the drops are why he lost that game, and in addition to some other things that I just talked about. But Pokey has a drop. Again, I don't remember the situation surrounding it. I'll go back and look. 14 has a tough drop on a slant on 4th down that I would have liked him to catch that ball. Malik drops a touchdown, which I realize is not necessarily a easy catch, but that's not super impossible either, man. It hits you in the hands. You're looking over your shoulder. That's a ball you got to catch. That's a ball you got to catch. That's a touchdown that's dropped. Johnny has another ball that's on 3rd and 7. That's a really bad drop. I can understand somewhat the slant. The kid's on your back, makes a play to an extent. I still would like to see you drop it. But the 3rd and 7 drop is incredibly painful. And Marquiston Douglas, I realize that you're asking a lot there and that 32 makes a smart play, but that one's either 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 10, and you drop the ball there. So, again, that's a touchdown, 3 possessions ended because of drops, and I don't know the exact situation. The exact situation surrounding Pokey's loss. And again, it's 12:45. I'm not going to go back and look at that right now. Yeah, so Christian asked, don't want to crap on a player, but does want to ask if some of the in-game play calling was influenced by our kicker and the situation there. Yeah, I mean, I think to an extent, you were running the ball some there, and all of Twitter was saying, don't play for the field goal, get 6 here. And to an extent, I agree with that. Yeah, I don't know, Christian. It's a good question, man. And if dude's 8 out of 10 on the year, are you thrown into the end zone at that situation at what I think would have been what y'all 39-yard field goal, 40-yard field goal, somewhere in that area? No, I don't think so. And if I've got the yardage off by 2 or 3 yards, I apologize, but yeah, I don't think it would have been more than 42 or so. And yeah, would you maybe try to set up a screen yard and a 7-yard out or something like that to have a little bit more manageable kicker or more manageable situation for your kicker? But yeah, you threw it, man. And I don't, again, no, I didn't think Pittman quit on the route. I think Pittman got bodied a little bit. Kid was familiar with what he was looking at based off the fact that it's basically the same exact structure previous. And yeah, I know there's some that get frustrated, like, hey, don't throw that route to like a 5'8" kid as far as like a jump ball situation. I understand that. I do have a little bit of a problem. I don't see that as a jump ball, but I do have a problem with that. If like that's all it takes for that kid to get knocked off his route, then that's, I don't know, man. I don't. Again, I really don't want to sit here and Zapruder film the last play of the game. I know I know it's easy to do that. Go back and watch the third quarter. That's why you lost this game. The fact that you're trying to run against um, a box that would strictly dictate that you don't need to be running against. So, um, yeah, why are we running Travis more? I mean, Travis ran more this game. Some of it was called, some of it was improvised. There have been a couple times where I would have liked to seen Travis run, be more decisive in deciding to run. I also, um, this is being particularly critical of a kid, but like, man, that offensive line and particularly 79 like can't block somebody for so long. So you've got to, I think, make a decision quicker. You kind of setting your offensive line up to pick up holding calls at times, but again, Jordan's been really good. Wasn't great, particularly in the second half of this game, and he's got some work to do. And I hope he's open to doing it. I mean, I don't want to again microanalyze certain situations, but I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Nathan says kind of what I was alluding to there. There's times where Jordan's body language isn't great, and I don't know. I know again, that's stuff that people analyze at 11 or midnight after you lose a game. That's a heartbreaker, but do need 13 to be more more knowledgeable as to as the situation, and when he does make a mistake, listen to Mike. There's times where it looks like maybe he's kind of trying to blow him off some, which is, I understand, frustrating in the moment, but it's just not a great look for TV. And you got to realize that 95% of the people that consume this sport consume it via television. So yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that want head coaches, position coaches, everybody else fired. That's just not the way that this plays out. You're still 4-2. You got a good chance to lose to Clemson next weekend, and you got a good chance to win your next 5 games. I mean, that's what I said earlier in the week, and it's kind of where I remain. I mean, you're going to have tough games against Syracuse, and Georgia Tech won another game today, but those are teams you should beat. Miami looks, more than gettable. Barely scored against one of the worst defenses in the country today. So yeah, I think that's where it is, y'all. I mean, next weekend, be cool. Be cool to beat Clemson at night at home. Hell yeah, it would be. But for me, it's about getting through that game, not suffering any more injuries that are going to prevent you from having people on the backside of the bye week, and letting it rip. You're 4-3. We knew you were going to have to, make hay on the back end of this schedule, or at least we thought you were going to coming into this year, and that hasn't changed. That's where you've got to, prove people that you've made this jump. I think an 8-win season is still alternate or very attainable, and that's where I think our goal should be. It's just part of it's going to be dependent upon what some of these injury reports look like. Is Cooper Is Cooper a 2-month deal or like a 2-week deal, or is he a 2-month deal? Are we going to see Fabian again? Ask somebody in the chat. Yeah, we are. Absolutely. I think Fabian's. Uh, I've heard more positive news on Fabian in the past 2 or 3 days than I have the past 2 or 3 weeks prior to that. So I don't think you see Fabian for Clemson. I know there's been a slight movement on that, but I personally would be surprised if you don't just get the bye weekend, get another week rest, and try to have him for those 5 games that I just referenced there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I've watched a lot of football. I can't remember seeing a punter run past the past the line of scrimmage and then punt it, particularly when I realize we're talking about a punter. But damn, if the first down wasn't just right in front of you and you've got a lead blocker in Rector there, but oh, y'all, this one's gonna hurt for a while. This one's gonna be one that stays with you, and it's just disappointing. So Florida State goes to Raleigh, loses again, 19-17. There it is. So we'll go back and watch this one, as unappetizing as that sounds right now. Let me just look at my list here a little bit more. I thought Lundy played okay, had a particular nice possession there in the third quarter. I think that was the first NC State. I think that was the first possession that NC State had at Chambers at quarterback. Again, I have to go back and look. I didn't think Dent had a brilliant night, but that's really more an observation about tackling. Almost impossible to make observations about safeties as far as coverage, like live in game. So just a couple situations where I would have liked to see in 27 be a little bit more physical and a little bit more supportive in some of the run looks that you saw there. Yeah, the officials were bizarre. There's a play that I'll go back and look at where like an NC State offensive lineman pushes down. I think it was somebody in the secondary after the play, and then jumps on him. and look, there's tons of stuff you can go back and look at after a game like that. But that was just something like, oh, okay, well, if you're going to allow that, then it just seems like we're just not going to throw flags. Yeah, 44 and 56. I talked about that. Far more yards from a yard perspective. I think he had 387 yards. I'm not sure what that stat is actually, y'all. I hate when I do that and then am not actually referencing what I'm talking about. Credit to the defense, like I talked about earlier. Constantly put in crap situations and made him kick a field goal in damn near every one of them, and that is stuff that was true in the first quarter as well. 11 NC State's linebacker looks awesome, and I realize he's dealt with injuries, but dude, give me the 6-foot kid, number 32 all day. It's a great player, and I'll be more than happy to see him make his way on out of Raleigh. Is it still roughing the passer if he would have held the ball, or would that just been a sack? Yeah, CJ, I don't know, man. I don't understand that roughing the passer call at all. That just seems like looked a whole hell of a lot like the game of football is what that looked like. I didn't see a clear shot to the head. The guy certainly had the ball. I mean, the Mickey Ficky was throwing the ball as he was getting hit, so it wasn't a late, it wasn't a guy that came in 2.5 steps after the ball was released and unloaded on somebody or something. I do have a question here about the injuries. Yeah, y'all, I know what it does seem like we have a whole lot of injuries, but you're not getting like, and this is, I don't want to go too much into detail here at 1:00 or soon to be 1:00 in the morning, but you're not getting like ACL tears and stuff that is indicative of circling back to the strength and conditioning coach, which is what a lot of people are getting to. I don't know if you are, Jay Noel, when you ask about if it's time to ask questions about these injuries. That's really rare, y'all. And when stuff like that does happen, it's immediately identifiable. There was a friend of mine coaches in the SoCon, And there was a new strength and conditioning a couple years ago that um, was way overemphasizing a particular leg exercise. And because of that, you started having kids with a singular injury occur frequently. And that's because you had one muscle overdeveloped and it was putting too much stress on the joint. You're not seeing that, okay? You don't I know it's frustrating to see guys constantly injured out there, and some of it I think is a little bit of gamesmanship. I mean, when you're playing on defense, laying on the field for 60 seconds or so isn't necessarily the worst thing. But no, I don't think like, hey, does Josh Storms need to be, questioned about what he's doing? You're not seeing injuries that I would question the strength and conditioning coach about. You're seeing stuff happen in live play. Hell, most of the injuries are just offensive linemen getting rolled up on. I mean, it's not because dudes are doing too many squats or something like that. So, um, mm. so somebody asked me if I saw the Aristotle linebacker out there for NC State. No, I did not. Although I would, I will talk about him for as long as he's on the roster. Yeah, the diagnosis on Devin Leary is look like he's got a shoulder or collarbone issue as well, is what I would imagine from the look on that. Yeah, that's interesting, man. I said in the preview that I needed another game to really have a feel for that, based off the fact, despite the fact they played 5 games, 3 of them had been against competition that I'm not sure you can really extrapolate a whole lot. Label will be thoroughly unimpressed with Devin Leary. There's some chatter around the program that maybe he hasn't done quite as much to like learn the real nuances of the offense. And I don't know if that's true or if I just talked to a guy who knows a guy on staff who doesn't like the quarterback or something like that. If you get one guy with bad opinion of somebody, sometimes you can um, you can get too negatively clouded a picture of it. So um, it's another suck ass instant reaction podcast is what it is, y'all. So Florida State goes to Raleigh. Raleigh happens. Florida State loses. We'll be back again to talk about the Clemson game. And really we'll be back to talk about the next 5 games after that, because that's what's going to dictate as to the type of season you have. It's going to dictate how, to an extent, it's going to dictate like how aggressively I think you can close out on this recruiting class. I don't think you're going to lose kids this class because you lost 2 games, or if you lose next weekend. I do think that you need to continue to have a proof of concept, and you starting out 4-0 is awesome, and that's definitely what you would want to have done. If you had the chance, if you had the option of selecting it, but I don't know, y'all. Just one depressed dude in Atlanta, Georgia, talking about a team losing a game that they really shouldn't have lost. So we'll be back on Monday, and we'll revisit it more thoroughly. Again, thank you to all our sponsors. Thank you to our Patreons, supporters who do so much to make this podcast possible. And y'all, that sucks. That's a heartbreaker. Hope you grow from that. Yeah, whatever. Peace, y'all. Thank you again for letting us do this. I'm fortunate to be able to complain about Florida State football at 1:00 in the morning. So, till then, we'll talk soon. Go Noles. Damn Raleigh.